I said in a video several, I would say months, maybe almost 2 years ago, the Army is the easiest boot camp to pass. That probably is not the case because you have a private that's let loose that's trying to escape this place that's so difficult. But let's look at this and what happened here where this trainee decides to escape from boot camp. To be fair, escaping from boot camp is nothing new. I have covered a story from the Navy side where we actually had probably somebody that was a little more ballsy from the Navy that tried to escape Chicago Great Lakes boot camp almost, I would say, about a year and a half ago in the freezing cold. It's not that cold right now over at Relax in Jackson. And I will tell you, yes, it is known as that because it's an easier boot camp. We're not talking about Fort Benning here. This guy was soft. 23-year-old Hoven Colazo, I think that's how you say his name here, was in his third week of training when he was noted to be on a bus with his rifle in PT gear. And this has become a viral sensation everywhere because it is such a classic, iconic move. But to this extent, I think many people are shocked. It is known that the reason why he tried to hop on this bus and tried to escape boot camp was because he wanted to go home. And you're probably asking, how do you actually escape boot camp and leave the gates? Leaving boot camp is quite easy. It looks like he had attempted this during the times where there was this hygiene period where typically this occurs after a PT session. During this time, drill instructors, drill sergeants, recruit division commanders are not going to be over you every single second because they do give you a little bit of time to do this. Obviously, you have to meet the time hacks, but it is the time where there's a lot of movement and easier to dip out of your little area. If you want to go home, just tell them you want to go home.
I hate it here. What you care about is how happy I am and how great the ice cream is. I hate it here.
You don't want to be there. This is an entirely volunteer service the entire way, pretty much. We all talk about some specifics when it comes to that, but pretty much I could say at boot camp is the easiest time to get out. Now it looks like Hoven tried to hitchhike, go figure, man with a weapon, near a military base, in PT uniform, carrying a weapon, is not going to be able to be picked up. If I see a guy walking around wielding a weapon anywhere, I'm not going to say, let me go pick up that soldier right there. He seems really in place where he should be. Not at all. I would never try and do that. So I don't understand this whole process that he was going to get picked up on this. I bet you people near this Army boot camp are like, oh, honey, what is that? Is that another escapee over there? Yeah, they'll get picked up by the Army sometime soon. They're probably looking for him right now. Eventually, he hops on the bus, like I said, on a school bus, and he said that he did not want to hurt anybody. However, if you watch this footage, check it out. You shove a weapon in this man's face. You're like, go, go, go. I need you to keep going. Get out of town. I'm like, all right. So why are you trying to have this guy go? You're pointing the weapon at him, obviously threatening. There was no magazine, no round, anything like that, because the point of training, it was just a training evolution, getting familiarized with the weapon, and I just can't believe it. You did not intend to hurt anybody, obviously, because you had no rounds or a magazine on your persons, but I look at this, I'm like, dude, you obviously were trying to threaten them. Now, it is noted in this story, Hoven does get a little upset or angry at the fact that they don't stop anywhere he needs clothes. He ends up hopping off this bus and leaves to the woods. This is a point of story where I have to ask, Hoven, were you expecting them to like stop at Target, maybe the mall, maybe stop somewhere to get a bite to eat? I don't know, man. Like, that's not what's going to happen here. I'm just like, your plan sucks. Good thing you're not in prison already, because your escape plan would be the worst. If you're going to prison for a long time, don't try and escape. You're probably the worst planner. You've had one attempt at it, and it was less high security than your basic prison you're probably going to go to, that I just have to say, don't try this, please. And this entire time I have to ask, if he didn't want to hurt anybody, he's not going back to the Army, any of that, why even take the weapon with you? Was this like a souvenir, a participation trophy? You know, I know everybody wants one of those these days, but just leave the weapon behind. You're not going to return it later on or contact your family at that point. So I'm like, why even have it? This is like the worst breakout story I've ever heard. Now, the local police have said that he did surrender himself, no issues, as they caught him in the woods. But I will say, if you look at his mugshot, he does have a little bit of scratches on his face. So I don't really know how true that is, when maybe he had a little bit of leaves or whatever, nick his face. Brigadier General Milford H. Beagle Jr. said the following: to assess force protection, personal accountability, and any additional measures to prevent any future incidents, Sully said the entire Fort Jackson team continues to communicate and work with Army headquarters leadership to immediately implement changes that ensure the safety of Fort Jackson and our local community. And the Richland County Sheriff's Department says his next of kin have been notified that Collazo committed a serious offense and remains in the custody of local law enforcement pending charges. And before you guys get on this whole, how long did it take for the base to get to him? I've read in some sources it was only about a 30-minute period where he went missing before people were notified that this trainee was no longer to be found. And so that alerted the alarm, which obviously would go out to law enforcement and things like that as well. But he brought attention upon himself, so that really doesn't matter here. But let's really break this down for you guys. There's a video on the bus. Video cameras on buses have been around since I've been a kid, which I would say has been at least, I don't know how many years ago. I'm 30 now. So the quality's probably pretty good. You got on the wrong bus, man. Even a public bus. What are you doing? On top of that, when you join the military and you go to MEPS, you have fingerprints that are collected when you digitally sign and you say, yes, I will go to boot camp. Guess what? Those are in a database, which means you can be found and easily identified on top of that video. So you have to be like the ultra dumbest criminal ever. On top of that, you have the Army, which would be looking for you because you are part of the military and you are accountable to them and ensuring your safety and well-being. So literally, people are going to be looking for you. You're not just a willy-nilly little civilian walking around with a weapon with his little Army PT uniform. People are actually going to try and find you, man. And lastly, like I've said, you could have just quit. Boot camp failure to adapt would have been the easiest thing. They are ready to kick people out. And honestly, you're like, what if that took a while? What if I wanted to go home right now? The second you leave the Army training pipeline of boot camp, they say to themselves, we need to get you out of here. You're not going to become a soldier. You're not trying to become a soldier. You're wasting American tax dollars, which means essentially they don't want you there because that means they have to babysit you. So essentially they are going to try their damnedest to get you out of there as fast as possible to go back to your mom and, maybe get back on the little bottle or whatever else you got going back there because you are so ready to go home. I'm sorry that boot camp was the hardest thing you've ever had to do. Again, people will come at me and say, well, Nicky, you know that the military's not for everybody. Yeah, I know, but I also agree with the fact that, you shouldn't go capture a bus filled with 19 kids in it and now get 19 charges of kidnapping and also using this weapon to try and threaten other people. Maybe that's not for everybody either, but I will digress. I will say I'm glad I did not serve with this guy Hovind right here because I don't think he would have been a great addition to the military. Obviously, if he can't handle the minor stresses of boot camp, then I will say a real world, kind of combat scenario is going to be way worse. Well, the military will be stressful, will bring a lot of other characteristics to your life that you're not used to, being yelled at, being told you're stupid, whatever else. Essentially, it could have people break out into mental episodes, which is why I'm going to say, just say you're crazy or that you want to hurt yourself like other people do to get out of boot camp. Even though a lot of you guys really don't want to, it just really sucks. And I do get emails and text messages all the time about this where people are like, Nicky, I just messed up, man. I told them I didn't want to be a sailor anymore, a soldier anymore, and I dropped out because I said I wanted to hurt myself, and now I just realized I was young, dumb, and immature, and that's why I'm trying to prevent people going to boot camp in the first place if they're not ready. But I also want to make sure if you go there, you have the intent to. There are millions of people that have crossed through those doors over at boot camp to pass. If there are people that have been in your situation before, you're more than likely going to pass if you actually give a crap and put out effort. I'm just being honest. The government, the military have all spent tons of money to get you to that one specific place. Their goal is to make you pass. You just have to do the work to get yourself to pass. But this brings a good point. Should we start doing mental health screenings over at MEPS? And I keep saying every time this debate comes up where I'm like, we probably can't because the amount of money and the time that would take to do that. But this is where we get to the point of the video where I ask you guys, what do you guys think about this little trainee over at Relax in Jackson where it's known to not be that bad? What are your thoughts on this entire process and how he even got out of the base? Let's discuss that down in the comments below. But as always, if you guys do like what we do over here, we have a Patreon link down below where you can help donate and support this channel grow a little bit for some special perks and benefits. Also, on top of that, we also do have a YouTube membership, Boys Support Boys Club, down below this video. Also on the main page as well, where you can support us for as little as $5 a month. We do appreciate it, but if you do have questions about this or anything else, I promise you guys can hit me up on Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter, down in the comments below. I love you guys. I'll see you next time.
I pick it up right where I left off. The banging the drums and they point to me. I'm only